everyone. This is a town council work session, Tuesday, June 25th at 6 p.m. We have all councilmen in attendance, and let the record also show that we have Town Treasurer Mason, Town Clerk Hurd, and Town Administrator Aitken in attendance as well. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
It's been moved by Councilman Ellis. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bitter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, we've adopted the agenda. All right, let's move right into it. We're going to start with the administrator's update. So, Mr. Aitken.
So I've asked the brother to give us a little bit of good news you got yesterday about our SLIB loans.
Oh, our loans are being reduced, so from 2.5% to 1.5%, so it's saving us like $38,000 a year.
And this was retroactive to December 2023.
Oh.
Let's just end the meeting there.
So we have extra money, we have extra cushion.
It goes right to the reserves, right?
So that's 5 of our loans there. We had one that they did in January, but now they're doing 5 others. So that was great
Good.
news, and we're real happy about that. So we've talked a little bit about having a summertime community service officer, and I do have someone I think would be excellent for that position. I've talked to him several times. He's come in, and I just want to know if that's what we want to do here. We're thinking probably 20 hours a week to kind of supplement where Jim Rogers works, and just want to know how everybody feels about that.
It would run from what period to what period?
Yeah, we can choose. He's
So
here.
it's flexible.
Yeah, he's probably here till the end of September, but it's up to us to set those kind of terms.
And are we maximizing the number of hours per week, per month?
Yeah, we'll work out a schedule with the two, so we have someone here most all the time. And this gentleman will probably work more nights and weekends type thing, but he's open to whatever we would like. He's a retired police officer. He retired as a lieutenant. He's been a canine handler, a lot of high-speed stuff in his career. He's from Idaho. I met with him last year, but he would be great, and I think he'd be a great fit for the public. So.
I think it would be worth trying, and I know Councilman Merrill had brought up law enforcement before, wanting to try and do something to supplement our current enforcement. So I don't know if the rest of the council has thoughts, especially if it could be or at other times to when Jim is also
How
working.
soon can we get him to start?
Tomorrow. He's here, he's ready. So he would start anytime.
It would be nice to see how effective, or if that has any effect, right? So,
Yeah, I'm thinking of July 4th and the fireworks.
Right, yeah.
or just after it too. But I would just say, provide a budgeted number of hours, meaning to not exceed this amount, right?
Sure. And we have a little bit of savings there. We actually have an open position we haven't filled yet with Public Works, and we're being a little judicious in filling that position. We're not just going to hire anybody. We're looking for a water operator. It's proven to be a little difficult, but I don't anticipate we'll hire anybody in that position anytime soon, so I think we'll be okay budget-wise there.
You should have some revenue money from Jim not having as much overtime.
That's true.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, sorry, I'm not familiar with exactly what Jim's position is. I mean, I have an idea, but is he being utilized in the right way? Like, are we getting positives out of what his position is? Take him aside, but like, we pay him probably a significant amount, not significant, we pay him a salary. Are we getting like results out of that position? Because he can't cite, I mean, from some of the things that I've seen, like all of our reports and stuff, I already question how much we need an SMO. And so for me to add another half-time position on, I just want to be a little bit more, have some more answers of understanding what his position is and what the value added is going to be.
So his primary function, and Trevor, you can help me with this too, is the enforcement of our code. So he doesn't do like speeding and things like that the Lincoln County Sheriff, that we contract with them to handle. But his job is to enforce our regulations. So that's why it's when you see things in the court, it's always like, loose dog or short-term rental violations, things like that. So I think, and at least from my perspective, Jim not being available oftentimes on Fridays, weekends, or at night, which is a lot of times when we have issues, especially with short-term rentals or, when there's events going on for the weekend, has been difficult. So, in our ordinances, we have a position for an SMO specifically to do code enforcement. So that's really what his job is. Now, how effective that's been,
So without getting too far into details there, I would say that there's room for improvement, and we're working on that. We're working on that right now with Jim, changing the expectations there. So I think that we'll see improvement there, and I think that actually hiring who this person is, he's been the training officer and things, I think he will set a different expectation for Jim just by example, and it will help facilitate change.
Okay.
So did that answer, or do you have anything else?
I mean, a lot of times I look at our reports and like, it's not my job to know what he does every single day, but it's definitely, I'm trusting in the fact that you do and you think this is necessary. So if you feel that way, then by all means, I'll back you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So, do you need a motion?
I
Or
don't
is this
think we
just something
do.
you can do?
I think it's something we can do to stay in the budget. I don't think we need a motion, but I just want to see how everybody felt about it. Just to make sure I'm not off base there. I think it will be a pretty good opportunity for us, and I think we will get a return on our investment there.
I think it'll prove whether we get a return or not. And if we do it just this little part-time thing, let's see, because we're all for more, safety.
Right. So I mean,
Issues, so.
it is for a finite period, just through the
Yeah.
summer months, so might give us an idea of whether an additional hire for either part-time or full-time is something we ought to also consider going forward.
Is there an anticipated salary or like hourly or how's the pay and what's that gonna?
Yeah, it would be an hourly salary of $25 an hour is what we're thinking there.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and give that a shot, see
Yeah.
how it goes, all right? And we'll let the public know as well, that they'll have a new face out there to interact with.
Make sure
To
it
get
comes up.
mad at.
Yeah, to get mad at or whatever.
I'll keep you updated on how that works. And just another item, we budgeted for water meter replacement, and it got a little weird because the company that came in and gave us a quote can sell us the meters, but they can't sell us any of the software or anything. So after we've done the budget and everything, the company that actually has the contract for these 3 counties around us in Wyoming, but not the rest of the state, said, hey, those guys can't sell them to you. So last minute I had to work through a lot of problems there, but I got the quote on, I don't know, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday, but it actually came in maybe $12,000 under what we had before. So these meters, they're the ultrasonic Neptune meters, which is a pretty high-end meter on the market. They have a 20-year life expectancy. They're fully warranted for 10 years, and after 10 years, there's prorating on the warranty, which is pretty good. This is one of the best meters out there. So that quote came in, and I'm going to work a little bit more with the company to see if we can even whittle that down. We started out over $600,000, and we're down to 510, 543. So what we're waiting on there though is they need to they bring in some towers and they do a little cell service coverage for our area, because given the hills, there's areas that your cell phone doesn't work, and it would make it difficult for the meters to report to the office every month. So they do a cell and a radio signal study. We're just waiting for that to happen to make sure it will actually work how we think it will. But that's moving along very, very well.
Do we know yet when they're gonna come do that?
He's requested that IT part of their office do it. They haven't scheduled it.
Okay.
He said he'd let me know as soon as possible.
This does include the cellular option? for $15 a year. So just over $1 a month if residents would want to have that capability.
So, and I just need to confirm a few things with them on the cell stuff before we can move forward with anything, so. But it's looking pretty good right now. Our tank lining bid is out, it's open right now for Green Canyon Water Tank, and that bid will be open until July 8th. There will be a bid opening here at 2 p.m. on July 8th. And we'll see.
Okay.
We've had at least 3 companies contact our engineer, and another company contacted me today. So looks like we've got some decent interest, and we'll see what happens there on the bid. But it's looking promising. We had a few concerns recently with of our water infrastructure. The runoff washed out in Prater Canyon, a piece of water pipe, and this happens typically where the road washes out if you've ever gone up Prater Canyon. There were some issues with the road there as well as the pipe up by the spring. So I was able to get the Forest Service to grant us permission, and actually came in on Monday, inspected all their equipment. The guys were able to fix all the problems with the road and get that pipe covered on Monday. So that was a huge project off our back right now. And I'll report that back to the EPA here shortly. And the Forest Service is working on just adding maintenance to the road and maintenance to the water line that's necessary for the remaining 20 years on our agreement with the Forest Service. They think they'll have that done this summer, probably next month, which will be great to not have to do all that work every time we have to do a small project like this. And Ryan, our engineer, is working on a design replacement for the Prater delivery line. That was the #1 concern he had for our water system in his 2024 study. So when he gets that done, we'll be able to hopefully start looking for grants around October. Estimated cost on that is about $1.2 million because it will include some pressure relief valves on the line and the replacement of everything there. So that's moving along. And last June, right when I started, there was a meeting in Etna with Y2 Consulting and Sunrise Engineering where they were looking at small grant opportunities. I filled out a bunch of paperwork then, told them a few things like piping the ditch out here, some of the drainage issues we have, and some issues with our water line. I filled it out again about 6 months ago, and they just called. They came in yesterday. I took an engineer, different engineer from Sunrise, and Y2 Consultant. We looked at several issues, and they're going to draw that up and provide us that information for the future. And also see if they can get some grant funding for some of these smaller projects. So we'll see where that goes, but they're trying to help us for free, which I like. And we discussed before in an update, an email update, that the EPA is required us to do a level 1 assessment. That's been sent in, and we're waiting to hear back. Just as part of that, I contacted Jamie Harris with the EPA, discussed what we have going on, what we're working on here. She was very excited to hear some of the things I had to share, and I've written up a document with several things we're working on. I'm going to send that to them next week. I just want Ryan to look over what I've written first. But the little conversation out there with Jamie Harris is that she wants us to go back on chlorination. And almost, I would say probably 2 times a month, she sends us an email saying, you've had several TC positive samples since you went off chlorination, and we think you should be back on it. So I'm working through that with the EPA, but what we're looking at there is the possibility that we want to do that voluntarily before we were mandated to do it. Either Monday or Tuesday, the EPA has a contractor coming in to do an MPA assessment, it's a microparticulate assessment. They regularly do that almost every 3 to 5 years. The timing on this is not great for us, but they had it scheduled 6 months to a year ago. So what they do is they let water flow for 10 hours, and then they take a sample, they look at it under a microscope and tell you, hey, you think you need to treat your water or not. So get a little uncomfortable with possible mandate.
When they give you a mandate, is that all tanks, all water?
It would be, yes. And
Even if you haven't had a failed,
if you get a mandate, it is, you have to do this period and there's not a way to.
Because it's the distribution system and it's
so
all
it's in
linked
the
together,
distribute,
yes.
okay, okay.
The other thing, if we voluntarily chlorinate, we get to control how much chlorine is in there and how we control that. And if we decide at some point we think that we fixed our issue, we can turn it off and we just have to notify. If it's a mandate, you lose control.
Okay.
So I'm working through that this week, but, question?
Have you guys given any consideration to doing a forensic study to find out where the contamination is occurring?
We haven't recently, but we're pretty confident we know. We had, where we had a last sample, when you have a TC positive sample, you have to do 2 above and 2 below the sample point within 48 hours. That was right up, the last one was taken to the source and we had the TC positive sample there at the spring.
At the spring?
Yeah.
So is it the spring water or is it in the reservoir?
So I'm not able to answer that definitively, but I can tell you that to get a sample, they're very, very sensitive tests.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to tip a sample one way or another, but the EPA doesn't care at the moment.
Yeah.
They say, hey, this is where it was, so you have a problem there.
Yeah, and
That's what
so, and I think what historically, looking back at, sample data in the past, sometimes we've had positives at the spring during spring runoff, like when there's a lot of water flow and there's just a lot going on up there. So it's not, I won't say it's not surprising, but it has happened before. And since we've been in the hot seat with EPA for a few years now, anytime we get a positive, they are just on us.
Yeah, well, I know, once you start chlorinating, though, it's, especially if it becomes a mandate, it's real hard to get off.
Right, and so we were
So-
fortunate to get off the first time, and it's just been something Trevor's keeping an eye on, that, we'd rather control our own destiny and the amount of chlorine we might have to put in the system than the EPA telling us, you must put this amount and have this residual throughout your distribution system. So,
Yeah.
and I think if I can add too, that, so for those of you that might be familiar with Afton, that had quite a battle with the EPA in recent years, when they finally spent a lot of money with legal fees and everything else, at the end of the day, they ended up voluntarily chlorinating their system, just so they can, again, control what it is they're doing with their system and get the EPA to back off. Yeah, so, but,
And what we're finding, reaching out to other places, is there's more and more municipalities that are voluntarily doing this. They maintain control and they can control the levels, so we're working through it, but I hope to have better answers after talking again with our engineer tomorrow.
yeah.
So I'll let everybody know, we'll be transparent, but it's a concern. We don't want to get put back. We don't want to be mandated to do this, or we lose all control.
Did we have more positive tests after the last meeting that we were told we did?
We haven't tested since then.
Oh.
We'll test on
Next
we'll test
week. Right.
a week from Monday. Monday's the 30th, right? So,
Yeah.
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 And now after that good news, what else do you have?
I just wanted to let everybody know, there's a lot of things, people are aware of the thing they see, but we've got a lot of stuff to work through, both in the office and in Public Works. But the employees we have right now have made a huge impact on the prior things that were left undone. So just yesterday, the guys went down, they got all of Plant 5 fixed and graded the roads there, but they're coming up with some solutions on how we can get more done and save a lot of money. And especially these two ladies right here, and Scott, our office staff, has fixed a lot of things from the past, worked through a lot of issues, and the employees are really putting out a lot of work right now. You don't always see that, but in the last few years, we haven't dug any meter pits. We made other people dig it, expose their lines. It's kind of concerning. The guys have done 17 meter pits in the last month. They're cranking out a ton of work and fixing a lot of problems. So I just want everybody to be aware of the team we have now is very, very efficient, and we're continually looking at ways to save money and get more done. So
Thank you for that.
So in the past, we didn't dig the meter pits, but do we still charge the same then?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we've gone back to digging them for safety issues.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree, like, we should be charging more if we're going to be doing all that work.
Yeah, well, unless you have any questions, that's what I have for an update today.
Thank you. Any questions for Trevor?
When is the bid for the Vista, paving supposed to be out?
So in talking to Ryan, it's his opinion, which he makes a lot of sense now that we discussed it last week at length, is he wants to put that out in October for a springtime project, and he wants to tie all three, Vista as well as the chip seal and Plat 5, Plat 21 together, because he believes we'll get a much lower bid if we do three projects. It's one mobilization fee, so.
Would it be something that we could consider, I think Frank, during a tourism board, or maybe just during a workshop, he had mentioned doing, like a bike lane. And, I saw a few options online for like a pedestrian lane even. So I didn't know if it would be something that we could actually look and have the bid include that, or at least see what the cost increase would be on it.
We could potentially do that, but it'll be significant. I'm not even quite sure with what's going on in prices that we can cover those three projects. I'm a little concerned. We updated it last year in the budget, or the second one by another 20%.
Yeah.
Prices are kind of all over the place right now, and I don't think we could do those three projects if we added a bike lane.
Well, do we have the space to, I mean, is
So
there?
we have plenty of space, but I'm
Do
more
we?
concerned, like, if we just wait and don't do a path, like, if we were to get a TPA, loan or grant, excuse me, like, at some point, if we're at least showing we're trying to make the, trying to make an effort to do something out of safety on that road, it might help, so I was just hoping that we might be able to look into that. I don't think it would be a huge increase, maybe just like 2 feet, but it would be paint in 2 feet. You don't have to do anything more.
Your bike path's gonna be 6 foot wide.
No, they don't.
Class 1 bike path's 6 foot
I
wide.
know, but not when a road is not qualified as that.
Is there an opportunity to just do like some sort of a striping
Well, that's
on
what I
one
was
side?
thinking, like a
Yeah,
pedestrian lane, and just on one side, it wouldn't
right,
have to
so
be more.
not necessarily making the road itself wider as much
No.
as providing for
You could stripe it.
striping. Is it, I
Unless there's a
mean,
regulation
maybe
against
there's
it.
a opportunity to ask Ryan about that as an option that could be added on if, the overall price were to come in within budget and, we could stripe this, or here's an option. I know there's more to look into, like safety and regulations and those sorts of things, but, if we're not gonna get the bid out until October, maybe we can at least take a look at it between now and then.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll talk to our engineer about it, and what I'll tell you though is with what some of the employees down there wanna do, we're gonna have to vet this out a little before I share anything, but they came up with an idea where we might be able to get a lot more done faster with the money we have. And we just talked about this on Monday, I'm like, holy cow, where'd you guys come up with this? So, once I'm able to vet through that and get some numbers, we'll see what we can do. But these guys are really taking an interest and pride in their work. And if what they're trying to sell me on, if they can show me the numbers, it might be significant, so
Okay.
we'll look at it.
And I don't know that it would be exceptionally more expensive. I know to put an actual pathway in was like 300 and some, it was like 312 last year. So this isn't necessarily to extend the road. Like, I don't even think we would need to make it wider necessarily, but it would be something that if we're going to, would be now when we do that.
Okay. See what I can come up with.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Any other questions for Charlie? No? Okay. All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda is the solar ordinance and permit. So we had tabled ordinance 2025-04 from the June meeting, and we want to bring it back in July. I know that the third reading version, we had stripped out the ability for a resident to have pole-mounted solar if they can't put it on their roof. And there's, after looking at the Solar Rights Act and some of the language, and Scott had gone back and looked at it again, there's language in the Solar Rights Act for Wyoming that says no local government shall prohibit the construction or use of solar collectors. So Councilman Ellis sent another version, I guess that had come from the planning
Yeah,
commission, or from Scott maybe,
No, I sat in on the planning commission for
when I was
Mayor
gone.
Rock when she was out. And I brought it up, because if you remember the last debate, I was the one that was going, how high is the pole, and I'm not in favor of this. They came up with some pretty good suggestions, and I think those two pieces tended to summarize what they were thinking. So it wouldn't be an automatic, but it would be dependent upon the topographic of the area of the land, of the lot, where they're gonna put them, what kind of things it is, and then it still has to go through a process. So,
So the version you sent out had a section that was added,
there should have been two sections added.
that were, yes, two, about the permitting and how the building official is gonna be the one that like goes out and inspects basically and then recommends to the planning commission whether it should be approved or not. And then there, you know, if it's denied, the homeowner can still appeal to the town council. And then I think the other portion was just, you know, putting that pole mounted section back in with the sort of some of the parameters around how you would build those, or how you could, I guess, build those, the height and all that. So I think what we need to do is clean this up and send the whole ordinance back out to everyone. When do we need to have ordinances posted? By Monday? Tomorrow? Oh, yay, tomorrow.
Surprise.
Maybe Friday, but. Yeah, okay. So we've got to fix this one, tidy it up. We don't have much in the way of ordinances for July, other than this one, and there's still like the two from last time, I think, that are on second or third reading. Okay. All right, well, let's see if we can get this one back out to everybody to take a look at tomorrow. I did a little tidying up on it today, just because there was mostly formatting stuff, but let's see if we can, I'll get with you and we'll try and get it out in the morning. That way if you get a chance to take a look at it and anybody has any more comments, we can go from there, but.
And this would be third reading?
This would be third reading, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions about this one? I feel like our hands are tied a bit here on, we can't just flat out say you can't have the pole mounted, but I think we can put this process in place so that Scott can go out there and make sure that, you know, if the person really could put it on the roof and they just want to put it in their yard, then that's not what we're intending here. It's if for some reason topographically on their lot they cannot put it on their roof and they need to put it in the yard. There's also, I saw a provision in here, I was going to ask you about this one, Councilman Ellis. It said input from neighbors within 320 linear feet of the proposed installation. I was like, is that supposed to be 300 or is there?
I remembered,
That's a football field.
yeah, most lots are 125, so that's 2 to 3 lots on either side,
Okay.
which is about what we were using for lot combinations. And that
Okay.
was the one that just came up.
Okay.
Change
Just
it to
seemed
whatever
very
you want,
specific, 320, so, okay.
I know.
I'll double check, make sure it wasn't
Well,
a
at least it
typo.
wasn't 321, you know.
Well, how about 319?
All right. Okay, so I'll get with Jamie and we'll get that out, shotgunned out in the morning for another quick look before we put it on the agenda for July. All righty? Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which are the ordinance review assignments, as I called them. So we had talked about this in a couple of different work sessions about the need to go through our town ordinances and really do a good scrub and look for things that don't make sense, things that are inaccurate, wrong, or have been overcome by events and just need to be changed. So I took a stab at kind of going through the index of the ordinance by title and chapter. And I put review assignments in based on current council liaison roles for the most part, except for under general regulations where I kind of just divvied those chapters out. Now, after the fact, I had a thought, or it was pointed out to me, so I put Councilman Toolson on all the business regulations. Perhaps that wasn't the best choice.
Surprise.
I mean, I have no idea, I can certainly get feedback.
Yeah, I did. And the method behind my madness at the time, I was thinking about the short-term rental ordinance and the fact that that's where the lodging tax comes from, and you're on travel and tourism, and that's where my brain went. I didn't think about the broader picture of, she does run a number of businesses in town, so perhaps that's not the best fit.
Conflict of interest.
How would you feel about switching, like if I put Councilman Bitter on those, and then you can take the administration section, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and then,
Okay.
I mean, this is a pretty monolithic effort to go through, and my recommendation is, as you review your sections and start going through them, and you know, again, just if you find things that just are incorrect, need to be fixed, great. Or that, you know, things are just different now because the ordinance has been there since 2010,
Yep.
and you think there's a recommendation to update it, that's kind of what we're going for. And then I'd also recommend that as you go through your section, also like do a search with the search tool in the ordinance page on the website, so that to see if it appears anywhere else in any other chapters. Because that's one of the biggest problems we have, is that, you know, there'll be a chapter that talks all about roads and vehicles and traffic control, but then something about roads appears in a completely different section, and maybe they conflict. So I can't really tell you exactly how to go about doing it, because everybody's gonna have their own process, but however you can get after, just let's try and make these better, that would be terrific. And as you're finding things, you should probably go ahead and bring them forward, because if we need to start getting things read and through, I mean, we could end up with a lot of changes between now and the end of next year.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, please do.
We have Microsoft's Word software, correct? There is a document piece in that software that allows a document to be put up so people can make changes. And then everybody can look at those changes. Well, let me rephrase that. One person has control of the changes as one comes in. You can identify other people to take a look at those changes, and they can add comments. So it's all in one piece. We're not sending out hundreds of emails and pieces of paper, etc. And it's all in one place, so everybody can see it.
Is that Google Documents we're talking about, or what are we
Word has
talking?
the comments, so you
Okay,
can do
like
comment, like track
track
changes.
changes.
This is the
even another
comment
one.
field. Yeah.
It's a work, I've forgotten the name now, but it's been around for a while, and it sits out there, and only the people that are supposed to look at it can look at it.
And you're basically sharing a document. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
All
forgot the
right, we'll
name
look
of
at
it.
that as well. So I'll ask if you can start working on this between now and the end of this calendar year. And again, as you're going along, you know, go ahead and, if you find something that, wow, we really need to fix this, let's go ahead and get it in the pipeline to fix.
Okay.
But if we could kind of take a crack at it again between now and the end of the year, and then see where we're at, we can make some adjustments as needed. Okay. Any other questions on this one? I know, again, it's gonna be a big job. All right. Okay, moving on, so I need to.
Walnut?
No, yes. I'm just making note to self. Okay, the next one is the variance request for 522 Walnut Drive. So I believe I sent that information out previously, and then the town clerk sent it out again just for a refresher. And the reason I asked her to do that, and then there was an additional document about our ordinances and how some of them are just not consistent, and kind of has led to this particular variance request. So the planning commission denied it, just so everyone knows, this last week. As of today, the gentleman who asked for the variance has not applied for, or has not come in to appeal it. And I believe he has 10 days to do that. If he does, then it's gonna come to the town council for us to relook at it and decide, do we, you know,
So how did we approve others? Like Dr. Gonzalez that's on Cedar Drive? I mean, he built that beautiful ancillary building with, I know it's got living quarters above the garage. So
Right.
how do we reconcile that where we've recently
so
done something
that
different?
was part of the discussion from the applicant that, you know, there are other
Yes,
dwelling
I
spaces
know
in
4.
at
that
least
have-
attached garages or accessory buildings within the town, and so he was confused as to, or didn't understand basically why.
Yeah.
Now we're saying no, and apparently in the past it's been allowed. So in our ordinances, the only thing I could really latch onto was that in the definition for accessory building, it does specify that the space should not include any, or it says, such use shall not include any building used for dwelling, residential or lodging purposes, or sleeping quarters for human beings. So it says that in the accessory building definition. But in the garage, it says the primary use of parking or storing vehicles.
Primary use then?
Yes.
That's how,
But it doesn't say, it does
what's,
not.
it doesn't refer to anything above it?
Exactly, and it doesn't specify, like the accessory building, that it can't be used for sleeping quarters for human beings. So to me, that kind of left the door open
Yeah.
for wiggle room, and I don't know, there's, you know, we had a planning and zoning board previously that would approve everything. Now we have Scott, our building official, who looks at everything. And of course, this is a problem for him, because if someone were to come in with a detached garage right now with
Yeah.
a big open space above it that maybe they don't designate as dwelling or sleeping space,
It gets approved?
yep.
So the question becomes, why would we not approve it versus approving it?
Right.
Meaning,
So I had the same
I
question.
don't have the history here that you
And
guys
so
have.
some of that sort of additional information I sent out, I tried to look at that through all our ordinances. And also, not that we're enforcing DCCNRs, but to see where it came from. Because I've been told this many times, that dwelling space above garages is not allowed in the DCCNRs, or da-da-da-da. I couldn't really find that in there either. I found a lot of things that refer to lots shall be used solely for private, single-family residential purposes, and there shall not be constructed or maintained thereon more than one single-family dwelling and a private garage. Well, if the private garage is part and parcel to the single-family residence, I don't know, it wasn't clear in the wording in the DCCNRs. And again, we're not really concerned with that, but we've tried, the way our ordinances are set up, not to be in direct conflict with them. At least that's how it's been progressing up to now. Now, the DCCNRs do not mention accessory buildings at all. So, unless the town allows those.
Well, yeah, yeah.
So,
Is a detached garage, primarily a garage, an ancillary building?
not the way our ordinances define it, because we can have,
Okay.
you're allowed to have, correct me if I'm wrong here, single-family residence, detached garage, and accessory building.
So then can you deny the request for a permit if it's not really an ancillary building? Because it's a
Well,
garage,
And the discussion we had,
detached garage.
and Brady
Not-
was
not
at
to-
the meeting, but the discussion we had was if the applicant had submitted for, this is a detached garage, I don't see how it could have gotten denied.
So he just made the mistake of
Calling
calling
it
it
an
the
accessory
wrong thing?
building.
The applicant was absolutely honest in the first
Yeah.
one he put out and laid it all out.
Huh.
If he'd have just left
What's he
everything else
gonna-
out and put it in.
Was he
it would've
honest with
gone
what he
through.
was gonna do with
Yes.
it?
Yep.
And is he going to rent it out?
No. And the thing about that is we do at least have in our ordinances that you can't do that. You cannot short-term
So
rent
he's just
the
wanting
space.
another room?
Yeah, for his family when they come
Right.
visit. But, so this is a good example of, there are places in our ordinances where they are not in agreement, or they're not, what's the word I want, consistent.
Yeah, not consistent.
And again, don't even know if this is coming before the council, but just wanted to make sure to bring it back up, and, you know, have you take a look at it in case we do have to look at it. So, and if he does come in within the next few days, we would try to do it in July to bring it up to the council then, so that we just need to
Okay.
go ahead and make a decision one way or the other. And if it means we need to update ordinances as part of that, then so be it, exactly. Okay,
So it is in conflict with the association, HOAs.
Well,
Or
with the
not really.
DCCNRs,
I don't,
The DCCs.
I don't,
I
They're
couldn't,
irrelevant.
We found, well, not, I mean,
I don't remember, it's,
the reason I'm
yeah,
yeah,
here is to not make it irrelevant on either side.
right.
Katie, I don't remember reading anything in there, but I could go back through and look. I mean, I've still got them.
Cause somebody else mentioned that to me this week as well, that
Yeah.
they don't allow that, and I came to the same question.
But you have to
We've
check
had-
every plat, or every,
Yeah.
every,
I,
there's
I
what,
did.
9 of them? 9 different
There's 11.
DCCNRs? 11, okay.
So this document I sent out to everyone, this language is verbatim as far as the use restrictions in
Huh.
all 11 sets.
Okay.
From the start.
And it says, the intent is single-family residential, there's no mention of accessory buildings. And then so look at section 1 of each of the DCCNRs.
Okay,
And then also section 9, I'm sorry, under Article 8. Article 8, sections 1 and 9.
got it.
Section 9 was very confusing to me because it says, no structures of a temporary nature, trailer, basement, house, tent, shack, garage, barn, or other outbuilding shall be used at any time as a residence, either temporarily or permanently, nor shall said structures be permitted on said property at any time.
So that means you can't use your garage as your residence. But it doesn't
It's just, I
clearly
guess the
state-
There
wording,
is one.
because no structures of a temporary nature, but then it says temporarily or
Yeah, that new
permanently. So that's,
That's gonna
the
be-
language
What's
is
that
just
there
not
on
written real well.
Yeah,
Cedar Creek.
okay.
This is what I don't understand. Like, exactly, like Taylor said, that brown building on Cedar right now, is that just a garage?
It's a garage
It's a
with a
garage
sleeping above it.
living above it?
It's
Are
a
they-
very
Are they building
nice
anything
sleeping.
else?
I
That's
believe
the
there's
house?
supposed to be a house there too.
There's supposed to be a
But it's
house
not
there, and
built
they
yet.
are moving dirt around. and
Oh, are they?
Looking like they're putting in foundation,
Okay.
but it's been that way for a year.
Yeah.
So in my reading at least, and again, we don't enforce the DCCNRs, but we don't try to overtly go against them either, because that just makes it more confusing for residents. I just couldn't, from my reading of the DCCNRs, find where the dwelling above a garage is prohibited.
There's got a few on
Not
there.
like really specified. It's, again, it's sort of loosely written like our ordinances, so that's why it's been happening.
One thing we, as a town council, have to remember is there are 2 homeowners associations in the town now.
Yep,
Yeah.
So,
yep, and the Sunrise Mountain Estates describes in their DCCNRs, 1 single-family residence per lot along with an attached or detached garage. They also don't mention accessory buildings.
Right, and, yeah,
But they do, the Sunrise Mountain Estates Code, or DCCNRs, does refer any and all construction being subject to Town of Star Valley Range Code. So that's their loophole, or their get out of jail free card.
I believe they already have one of those with an accessory.
Do they?
Dwelling space above it,
I haven't been over there to kind of look, but
out of like the 3 houses they have.
yeah, there's only
one of
like
them
3.
is, so-
Okay.
so, and we control the permitting of whether they can rent it, or,
Yes, right.
So it's like, almost like if you use it as a bedroom for
Mm-hmm.
your guests, right, to come visit, because you might have a large family.
Family.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that was
I'm
that's,
struggling with this whole concept.
me too, because that was where I kind of ended up. I'm like, what is the harm? Why would we prohibit it?
Yeah.
If we're already prohibiting, you can't build that little accessory building just to short-term rent it.
Well, and we've already got lots of other ones like this. I don't know the total number, but you can drive around and you
Yeah.
can count them.
And
you wanna get more complicated? You technically have a duplex on the town.
so, and that was
True.
another thing, so
Yeah.
I've been told, I haven't verified this, that there is one of these detached garages with living space above it that is being rented long-term to someone else that is not the owner of that lot.
Actually, it's
And when you think
it's got its
single-family
own driveway and the
residential,
whole bit.
like Councilman Ellis just said, that suddenly
Yeah.
now is almost like duplex, so that's, and I don't know that we address that anywhere in our ordinance, long-term rental. So, anyway, yet another reason to go through the ordinances for things. Okay. So you may not have to deal with it at all, but it might come before the council next
Okay.
month, just know. Okay, any other questions on that? I know it's the planning commission really went around and around and around,
Yeah,
so.
they're gonna need to.
And we have a new member of the planning commission, Jenny Stewart, who was very helpful. It was her first meeting, bless her heart. But she did read everything in advance, and she actually has a planning background from,
Okay.
or when she moved from Indiana, she worked in the planning department there. So she was able to kind of right the ship after a while and say, look, this is what your ordinance says about accessory buildings, that's really what you have to decide on, so.
Yeah.
That's why they did. All right, moving on to the next item, Star Valley EMS agreement and update. So I sent out, the clerk sent out this document, EMS Services in Star Valley, Wyoming pre- and post-2022 merger, which was provided to us, to Trevor and I, by Star Valley Health. So Trevor and I met with Star Valley Health leadership, CEO, and some EMS folks as well on Monday. So I think the council's aware, we currently have an agreement with Alpine, Thane, Star Valley Health about EMS services, and we pay $33,000 annually, and it's a 5-year agreement. There was I was still not sure about the date.
Yeah.
So the document was signed by, the agreement was signed by former Mayor Byers in November of '21.
Okay.
The CEO, so I just started counting 5 years from there.
Yeah.
This is what, 2026, is that right? Can we do that?
Yes.
But they, at Star Valley Health, they said, well, the agreement really went into effect January of 2022. So they're counting to like
Well, okay, so whether it's
through,
2
yeah,
months.
it's a couple of months
Okay.
different.
Okay.
They did not ask to meet with us to ask us for more money yet. But if you look at this document and look at the conclusion and look at the pro forma income statement and see how deeply in the red the whole EMS operation is in Star Valley right now, you can kind of draw your own conclusions. The next step, they just wanted to talk to us about where things are and that something has to give and needs to be fixed. And so they're planning to have a meeting with stakeholders in July. They haven't set the date yet, but they wanted to meet with each of the municipalities first and then bring everybody together, including the county, to figure out how do we fix EMS in Star Valley. And by state statute, EMS is not an essential service, so the town does not have to pay to provide it, but we do currently, we're in an agreement to do that. My understanding after talking to former Mayor Byers is that Afton has not paid for EMS for years and years and years.
It's my understanding neither does Alpine.
And Alpine and Thane don't contribute monetarily because when they became part of the agreement we're in, they gave their ambulances and their equipment to Star Valley Health.
Even though they're saying those need to be replaced.
Oh yeah, they've totally replaced and redone everything, so this is something that's gonna be coming one way or the other, and, we'll keep everyone updated, and once this big meeting gets scheduled, we'll see how that goes. They were very, the leadership at Star Valley Health was very, appreciative of our town for contributing monetarily to EMS for the past 3 years. So apparently we're the biggest monetary contributor at this point.
Should it be that way?
And I wonder, I don't know if does anyone remember the 33,000, is that what we used to pay Thane, or where did that number even come from? I don't know, but that's what it is.
But we do also put all pay the mill levy for them too, correct? Like we pay mill levy as well.
Not to
That's the
EMS,
fire.
for fire we do, for
No,
Mid-Valley
EMS
Fire.
also has one, I mean, they get tax money, so they have a mill levy, which is
They
part of
receive a mill levy, we don't
do.
give them
Not
any
from
of
us,
our
though.
mills, we give some of our mills to the Mid-Valley Fire, at least I think
So we
that's,
don't pay
am I
for-
right about that?
No, the
No,
county,
I
the
don't
county can do that, the county, we're not contributing anything off of the levy for EMS
Right.
service, just fire.
Just fine.
But the county does and can.
Okay, so tax money goes
So they
to that
do get
already.
some.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's what
But not from us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, our citizens do
Indirectly.
pay that. but-
Right, yes, you're right,
Well,
from that
that's
standpoint.
my only thing, like, and also even $33,000, I mean, at some point, if it's not a, service that even the county is looking at for, being
Yeah.
selective about, that it's important, then maybe us as a town need to look into doing like a quick response unit or something. Even if we don't do transport, I think we kind of need to look at taking on some responsibility than just trying to allow them to make money off of it. And they are, you know, when Bud was here, he said at the very least, the ones that actually do pay are like paying at least $5,500 for transport, even if they don't administer a lot of care. And that's over $3 million a year. So just in the 500 and some that they have, and if that number goes up, obviously, the billable hours will go up as well, but, I'm not, I mean, obviously, I think they're very important, but I also think that it might be worth looking into us starting a little something. I don't know that contracting with all these other companies is a good idea for our town continuously.
So definitely their biggest problem they have financially right now is that 44% of their calls are non-billable.
Well, that's actually not a problem if you look at how much they get from the billable one.
Yeah, but the real issue they're facing this year is the county tax levy reduced 25%. That's, I mean, obviously, if
Well,
you get
that's-
25% reduced,
That's what they're saying could potentially.
could happen, and that's where hopefully there's some state resources potentially.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, that
Potentially.
sounds like a scary number, but I would
I know,
also-
but that's why I think they're being proactive, trying to get out there to everybody and tell them, hey,
Or
this is
contracts
the
and
truth.
stuff, so.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, that's what prompted all of this.
Actually, that's really why they're here, but.
yes,
Um,
yes,
and-
but again, they know they got a problem.
Oh, they have a big problem,
It's-
but their EMS is
So
not all of it.
I forwarded another document that Star Valley Health sent us yesterday. I should have sent it earlier in the day. But it's I guess, before the agreement we're currently in and before the consolidation of EMS to Star Valley Health, there was a study done of EMS services in Star Valley in 2017. So that's what the document is that I sent you. And Trevor pointed this out earlier. In the beginning, there's an executive summary and it has a bunch of recommendations on things that should happen. And a lot of those, or most of them, have not happened,
No.
even since this consolidation of Star Valley Health. And one of the biggest ones is, what do the residents of Star Valley, not just Star Valley Orange, Star Valley, want out of their EMS and out of their EMS services? And we certainly have a much improved, like, services, not services, but like the equipment that Star Valley Health has and the training and the people are all, you know, a lot enhanced from when they took it over. But as you can see, it's just based on the numbers they provided here, not sustainable in the current form. So what are people gonna be willing to live with? But I'm sure they'll discuss that at this big meeting that'll be coming up in July.
Okay.
So this is kind of Trevor, anything else to add on all of this, since you were at the meeting? And I know you got more insight into some of the, you know, first responders and things like that with your experience.
I heard what you said about starting something ourselves kind of thing, but I was just reading this study and I didn't know that to be an ambulance service, you have to get licensed by the state. And one requirement there is you have to have an ambulance en route of an emergency call within 10 minutes. So that is the problem with volunteer services is
We
it's
wouldn't be
14 plus
transport,
minutes.
though.
What's
We
that?
wouldn't be transport though. Quick response isn't transport.
So that's what the conversation is, like, if you respond, I mean, you
It would
respond
be
somewhere.
volunteer. No, I hear you. But we wouldn't be transporting, so that's the other difference with still needing them because, I mean, we're still paying for them. The tax dollars are. So they do still, or should still respond. But if it's still taking them 15 minutes and they're saying that's an improvement to get to a call here on the ranch, and I feel like we're the only ones that have been paying for 5 years because I know the equipment that they did donate wasn't very much. I just feel like maybe that money might be better served if we had a quick response unit here that was actually responding within 5 minutes, but not transporting. That would still be Star Valley Health, which is to their benefit because then they take them to Star Valley Health and get more money.
So you're thinking we have a response group of volunteers,
Mhm.
the ambulance still comes and transports.
For transport, yeah.
So that doesn't, that's not gonna solve any of their budgetary issues though.
Oh, but I'm not concerned about their budget. I'm more concerned about like our response time for our citizens. So there's like a couple of things here. I don't think it's just worried about like supplying money to them. I think it's also about like making sure our citizens are getting the care that they need. And so I just wanna, like, if we're gonna put out money, I just wanna make sure that the benefit is worth it. So I'm just saying, like, if we had a quick response unit here that was able to respond.
Okay, let me point out three things. If you're going to a volunteer quick response team, number one, liability insurance. Number two, the level of equipment that's gonna be required. And number three, the training of the people.
Yeah, I'm aware of all of those things. I mean, at some point, we're going to need to put money and time into like certain things that aren't gonna be supplied by the county or by Star Valley Health or by Mid Valley Fire, which is also another option to like ask Mid Valley Fire, since we pay them $250,000 every year, to see if they wouldn't be willing to put on some EMTs as well.
We'll have significant challenges wading through the legality of that and everything else. And if you look what happened nationwide probably 15 years ago was Fire Aid EMS. Fire departments across the country absorbed EMS because they were smart, saying, we need to keep funding. If we take them on, we'll have more capabilities, more funding. That didn't happen here, but that's what happened across the nation. So, it would be, I don't think it would even be possible for us to do the quick response type things for cost. Liability would be huge, and I mean, something we look at, but having been through this, and this is what my degree actually is in, emergency services administration, would completely, I don't think, even be feasible. Still have the issue of they're gonna be wanting money to respond to our area. What are they gonna say? I mean, that would be if I were to see you over the hospital and I said, well, we're not coming to your area, I would be looking for a job before I said that, because I think the residents of the county are gonna take exception to that. But.
So I would wonder like what they actually need to run their EMS system, because as far as I can see, they're making well over $5 million probably a year on their EMS. So I'm not understanding like where the cost is gonna equate for us to give them more if we're going to not get more. Because I don't see like them improving times to us, which is huge. And then where they're having to already cut their employees, I'm not sure that we're gonna be getting sufficient treatment from them.
If you look at the last page of this, I highlighted the one thing that stands out in my conclusion is they're not collecting 34% of what they could bill for. And that's typically, from what I know, a problem with hospitals is their billing departments are not very efficient. The money might be there, but that's what I see as an issue. My opinion is they need to solve their issue before they ask
I
us for
agree very much.
my opinion only.
Yeah, no, and that is part of my concern too, like I said, giving them more money, but I don't know that, or even giving them what we have. At the very least, I think if we were to do any type of contract with them, it should be kind of like Mid Valley Fire, where we can at any point opt out if we find another option that better suits our citizens. So that would definitely be something I would request.
So the current agreement, we're in for the next, about 18 months, right? And then the town attorney recommended to us at present time not to sign any new agreement on this. So, just so you know.
Good answer.
Yes.
I'm glad you did that.
Just a couple questions. One, do all the other towns and unincorporated areas pay in addition? So are we the only town?
We are currently.
Okay, I
Currently.
see some problem there.
Now, the county does contribute some of their mill levy to the county
No,
outside
I get
municipalities,
that.
right?
I'm just concerned about if the other towns are not, then we're actually supplementing for their services everywhere else. And the other question I have is, if part of the reason that they're coming and wanting to look at further supplementing because of their budget shortfall, and we, even in agreement with other towns, start giving them more money. Where's the incentive on the county to not cut their budget completely?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
None of us, I don't think any of us.
I
would go
don't
down
think
this
so
path.
either,
No.
but I think that's certainly
I know.
something that needs to be presented so that their side of it sees that, no, their lobbying effort shouldn't be with us.
Right.
It should be with the county saying, hey, we're cutting your services, or we're cutting your income, putting pressure on them to come to us. And that might be fine if we were then to go to the county and say, okay, you're gonna have to give us a bigger percentage of your piece of the pie, which I don't even know if Wyoming statute allows us to do that, but, if we're gonna pick up their burden, then we need to get some relief for that burden as well.
yeah, there's definitely a much bigger conversation about this coming, and I did misspeak a little bit. So in the document they gave us, they, other than patient revenue they get from patients, transports, they have their other income listed as the county tax levy, our Star Valley Ranch funding, and then they do get $1,500 from the Bonneville Alpine Fire District funding jackknife. And I'm not even sure where that is, I'm somewhere towards the Idaho County line is. So anyway, there's another monetary contribution from that group, yeah, $1,500, yeah. Okay, all right, so we'll, keep everyone updated on that. This is a topic that is not going away anytime soon. And I'm sure some of you that read the paper or, you know, or have, you know, talked to other residents in the valley, this has been a topic that's been coming and brewing. So there's been some letters and editorials in the paper and things about it, so.
Yeah.
All right, any other save grounds on that one? Okay. So moving on, matters from the mayor and council. I've just got a couple things I wanted to pass on. First one is, I am actually going to be gone for a good bit in August. A year ago, my husband and I planned a vacation. That was well before I knew I was going to be mayor. So I've asked Councilman Ellis to be mayor pro tem from August 10th to the 20th. So he'll be running the work session and the council meeting and everything, and I will be out of the country, so will not be able to be on Zoom or anything. So just wanted everyone to know that, and it only dawned on me a couple of weeks ago when I looked at the calendar and realized, oh, vacation's coming up. Oh, vacation is coming up. So, and then the other thing I just wanted to check in with the council, so we've been doing these second work sessions for a few months now. Does the council want to continue with them? And if so, do we want to keep doing them in the evening like this? Is there, I mean, I do see we have some folks that are here this evening, so that's nice. I mean, it's 6 p.m. Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday still okay for everyone and useful?
My 2 cents, because I talked to some of the office staff, and I think we need to take into consideration their schedules with their families. This is now working on an 11-hour day for them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until yesterday, and I am fine and would actually be better to move it back to the morning. I do think having two of them, the work session is
It's
good,
useful, okay.
but I think we should consider some other
Going back
people's
to- okay.
thoughts of maybe
Is that,
home life.
do we want to go?
I can go, meaning I get it, the evening part,
Yeah.
so, but I can do mornings as well.
Okay.
I still think we have enough on our agenda and what we're gonna head towards with annexation and these kind of questions that are gonna come up.
It'd be-
We'll know if we need to, hey, one's good enough, right? I mean, unless you guys disagree, we don't have enough on the plate, but we just spent, you know, a good hour.
Talking about EMS. So for now then, should we move it back to, do we want to do 8 a.m. or do we want to go just do 10 a.m. like our other work session?
No, it needs to be earlier, I
You wanna
feel
do
like, yeah.
8?
And can we actually move it to Tuesday?
6:30.
Is there a reason it's on
There's
Wednesday?
a conflict for me on Tuesday.
Yeah, there was, I think it's how we ended up on Wednesday.
Well, that's why I needed it in the evening.
Okay, so where do we want to go with this then?
So next one would be the end of July.
It'd be July 23rd
23rd.
is Wednesday. So is Wednesday morning still okay, Councilwoman Earl, for you?
It is not, but it is what it is.
That could be either right or
I will,
left.
maybe after Zoom, probably, but
Or we could still keep it at 6 PM and we don't have to have Loretta and Jamie, we could rotate around or, so we're not keeping staff here. Hopefully you guys are putting in some extra hours for this. All right, we'll keep it at 6 PM then? Okay, we'll do that. That is all I have. Councilman Bitter.
We're gonna be closing out 2025 here in a week, so then the fun will begin. And we're gonna lay out kind of the way of monitoring our progress as we go through on the budget, identify any shortcomings or overages or underages that way. And but thanks to Trevor and Loretta for getting that all done and taken care of. So now I'm gonna switch gears and start working with the water board, just not directly, but just trying to help them continue to move forward on this 10-year model that they're gonna put together for CapEx. What are the big projects that are out there so that we can continue to monitor those reserves? So we gotta get it done. It might take a few months, but those are the things that we've had conversations about so far. Otherwise, I'm good.
You good? All right, thank you. Councilman Tolson?
Yeah, the first question I have is, has anything come in about Mountain Estates since our last discussion?
Crickets.
Chris, so I was doing the reconciliation yesterday for May, and I came across a payment to Ryan, or what is he?
Town engineer? Or?
Yes, for $2,500 for going out and looking at Mountain Estates. I don't feel, and this is the first I'm aware of it, and so I need a little bit of a background on why we're paying an engineer to do something on property that has not come to the town councils. And I know, well, I'll just speak for myself. You all know how I feel about even an attempted annexation on that, but I think it is not okay for us to be doing things when, I don't know, I need to understand why we're paying him to do something that hasn't even come to us, and it's being taglined as Mountain Estates.
So my thought on that, Trevor, you can help me out, is that in preparation for what we expect to be an annexation petition to come, we've asked our town engineer to look at the existing water infrastructure that's over there, because ultimately, if it were to be annexed, it would have to get tied into ours. So we need his assessment. We're not gonna take the Mountain Estates engineer's assessment. They're gonna certainly collaborate on anything that were to occur, but we asked him to spend some time taking a look at it. Is that fair?
Yes.
So I think that should be something that is brought to the council before we are spending money on something that has not even come to our. It would be one thing if, and maybe, I don't know, I just am very uncomfortable with that. The problem is I read it as 25,000 because was how it was line itemed on that report, and I got some clarification and looked through some documents and went, okay, well.
How much was it?
$2,500.
2,500.
But that's up to the developer to actually prove their point when they present us with an annexation. It is not, it's a conflict of interest to be using our own engineer for that. Especially in the interest
completely
of our
disagree. He
citizens.
represents the town and our interests, so I am gonna
How is
rely
that
on
our
our town
interest?
engineer to give us the straight scoop and not rely on what another firm might tell us.
Maybe.
Well, I would like to, if a petition lands here tomorrow, there's a timeline that starts of things we have to do as a town to vet that application is complete and has all the information that we need. And if we wait until that happens, it's gonna be a big scramble to get everything done and to put the right information in front of the council so that you have the information to make a good informed decision. So,
But I don't agree
I think
with,
that's a
I mean,
conflict still.
there's so many other subdivisions around here that could be looking to annex, and this has been such a hot topic. I just feel like I am not getting enough information to even be considering that. Like, it was there was public meeting notice. I mean, anything that comes out about Mountain Estates, I believe everybody at this table should know about it and be very
And
transparent
there
about
hasn't
it.
been anything secretive going on. Yes, we did ask
Well,
that
actually, I was
we,
told that he wasn't getting paid by us.
we've asked the engineer to go do that. There was even a document that we shared with the council of what he put together with an initial assessment on road impacts and things, and that was a number of months ago.
Yeah, I was told that we weren't paying for it because it's not in our interest to help him develop his water system.
We're not.
With our engineer.
Our engineer is not helping them do that, but if we want to ask our engineer for his opinion and his assessment of what's over there, then that's on us,
the
because he
point.
works for us.
We have not, though, I think it's the point to this. And that is really a developer's position to present that. So if he, I guess, wanted to pay for a different engineer, that's fine, but I don't know that we would need him to actually use ours.
I think the key is if somebody were to present a request for annexation, right? Then we would go through and say, well, here's all the things we're going to do, and you're gonna have to pay for this.
Yep.
It's kind of what you guys are saying, and I totally agree with that. But we haven't done that yet, right? And that's the concern, is you guys, all of us want to kind of be in the loop.
So
Okay?
what information did Ryan get that was worth $4,500 so that we can actually process that? I mean, that's what I'm asking.
He assessed our water system, and if it could handle additional strain anywhere else, that's not specific necessarily to Mountain Estates. If anyone else wanted, petitioned us for annexation, it would be applicable there as well. But we needed to have his opinion on that for some other reasons too. But that information is not available to anyone else. It just went out to the council. It was not that's not something we provided to the developer there.
I'm sorry, what was, you just mentioned something was provided to us.
Yeah, I
Can you
didn't.
tell me what it was? Or like, was it email?
You meant it.
Yeah, it was an email, Ryan Welling's assessment on how that would impact our water system.
The amount, like any annexation would.
Yeah, it would be, if you have X amount of homes.
Okay.
Now, that's the one we use with that amount of residences and everything, but he looked at that for us. And the
I don't
timeframe
think
here, this was quite a while.
Yeah, it was a couple months ago, I think.
Yeah.
We, in my opinion, can't accept, I think Sunrise is representing Mountain Estates. We can't accept what their engineer says.
No, I totally understand, like,
Yeah.
we would have to vet everything. But I also don't feel like that is in our best interest to do right now before we, first of all, even have an application. And second, it's not really something that the council approved or went over. I'm not understanding who that benefits really at all at this point.
This one is only us. I mean, we didn't provide that information to anybody else,
But yet we wrote, the check was written under Mountain Estates.
it's a project
From-
name for him.
Okay.
It doesn't mean,
Some-
he might call our water project Avail, because that's the company he's dealing with,
Okay.
but it doesn't mean Avail's.
So you didn't share that information with anyone but us?
I haven't sent it to anybody else, no.
So did he give us an estimate of how much more strain the water system can take? And in that estimate, did he say for how much longer before we have to do something else to increase our capacity?
Not exactly. He said he needs to do further study, and we have not asked him to do that yet. But he presented some ideas and some questions in it.
Were those ideas strictly related to Mountain Estates, or was it to expansion of the water system in general?
We've had conversations about it, about the water system in general. I haven't read what this was in a couple months. It would be applicable anywhere else, other than if, given the terrain and proximity, that would be different somewhere else. But he's working on several things right now. We've discussed other possibilities, water tank replacement, and that factors into some of those conversations every time we have a conversation. But
Do any
The
of
other
the
thing I'm
others?
wondering is, since he is pretty much the person who designed our system, and has been intimately involved in that system, since we started all the improvement, why doesn't he know this information anyway? How much we can add to the system without having to pay him an additional fee.
So I tell you at this time, it's not a finite answer, because we have problems with our system. We have a lot of stuff that is aging, and the meters, for example, they're inefficient. I can't tell you if it's water loss or underbilling. And then we have water loss because we're not billing, so he can't give us a definitive answer, and you know how engineers are, they want to be precise. So he's real cautious on how he answers my questions right now.
So why are we having him check out what a subdivision would be without all that information first? And then also, what about all the other subdivisions, like Katie mentioned, in the area? Like, I'm wondering why we're specific to that one subdivision.
Are you
Since we have
suggesting
not
we-
received an application.
So are you suggesting I have conversations with him about annexing a great deal of properties?
Well,
or-
that's why I'm asking, like, I don't even know why we're having the conversation at all, to some degree, considering.
Is it just because from an accounting standpoint, it got tagged to Mountain View Estates as a line item expense? If you called it something else,
Well, Fosgren called it that, is the problem, I think.
um,
So the actual engineering company called it that. As Trevor explained, it's because he's working with them, I don't know.
No, don't insinuate anything like that.
Don't tell me what to do, thank you.
Okay.
I'm not insinuating, I'm just saying that he
The
had to
only
work with somebody,
possible
right?
annexation we are aware of that could come is from Mountain Estates. So if us having our engineer do some work in advance to the benefit of the town, I don't see what the problem is with that. We have had
It wasn't
no,
discussed
we've had
amongst
no
us.
petition or discussion from any other developer developing things around the town who's interested in
I
annexation. So
think
that
that's
is why Mountain Estates is
Explained
the
to
one
me
that's
amongst us,
been
though.
talked about.
He keeps saying we and us, but some of us haven't been included in that, so that's why. think
And
we're
I will
having
say
issues
again
with
that nothing is being withheld from the council. We have received no annexation petition, and when we have Ryan's information that he is ready to put together, when we need to present it, then that's what'll go out to the council. And there has been information that we sent out several months ago from him when we asked him for an initial assessment when we were talking about the emergency access gate. So this has been ongoing because we know, or we expect, that annexation petition could come from Mountain Estates. We haven't gotten it yet, but we know that that's a possibility. So we're just trying to be a little bit, prepared for it so that we're not jumping through our butts to try and do everything at once if a petition lands on our desk next week.
I would just like to recommend that anything that has anything to do with Mountain Estates, include Kirsten and I. Anything,
Okay.
especially if we're paying money, going forward, that's all that I
I've
ask.
asked Trevor to just resend that
Yeah,
out, because
thank
I've looked for, I can't find
I
it.
couldn't find it either,
So
but
just resend it, that way at least we've
Thank
got the
you.
information, even if it's passed.
appreciate
So,
it. Thank you.
Did the water board get it?
And we have talked about Mountain Estates, the planning commission, a number of times. It's been on the agenda.
I would think the water board would have some interest in it.
As soon as there's something that's prepared enough to present, it'll
we
be
don't
sent out and
necessarily
shared
want
as it
to
needs to be.
make
And
a mountain out of a molehill yet.
any decisions about the water infrastructure that are part of an annexation per our ordinances would include the water board.
Yes.
So, okay, anything else, Councilman Tolson? And yes, we will send out anything about Mountain Estates to the entire council.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank
that's
you.
good.
You bet. Councilman Ellis?
Yeah, remind everybody that the Natural Resources Board's yard sale is Friday and Saturday, and they are taking donations tomorrow.
Thank you. Anything else? Councilman Merrill?
I was just gonna report, oh, go ahead.
One more thing. Arbor Day was a success. We now have 13 new trees.
Yay.
13.
I was just gonna report about safety days, it went well, Jim did a good job of getting everybody in, and everybody seemed to have a good time, so it worked out well. I would also like to, go back to something I brought up at the last meeting about the dump truck that was purchased. I did not see that in our 2025 budget, so I would like to ask some questions about it.
Go right ahead. It said dump truck trailer, I believe, was what was in there.
That was what was purchased already.
No, that was what was in the budget.
That's what
And
the
already
budget
put-
said.
Yeah, for 2025.
Right.
Yeah, that was already
Yeah,
purchased.
it wasn't a truck.
Yes, I know, but I was told last
Right.
time that it was in there, and I wasn't able to find it, so I'm just trying to figure out, who approved that, because it didn't, come before the town council that I'm aware of.
So I read it as dump truck, and it did say dump truck trailer. And I went back and we looked at what the spending was in, where is it, facilities, equipment needs.
Capital expense.
Yeah, and we had not overspent that budget area under equipment needs. So if we have to do any kind of budget amendment or reconciliation for the end of the budget year, that'll occur at the end of July,
So
I believe.
when was it already approved though? Like if it's already been approved, was there a contract with whoever we purchased it from?
It was a dump truck that we bought that Zach found on the government auction site, and it was something that we had to act on quickly to buy, so I gave them the approval to buy it.
Okay, but you don't have the unilateral authority to actually do that. So that's why I'm concerned, because in the past, I feel like that was how some of the money that was spent inappropriately occurred. And so I'm concerned that it's occurring again.
No, that's not correct. So according to the state auditor, you're not gonna make a budget amendment every time you either under or overspend a specific line item. And we had an entire category of money in the budget for equipment needs last year that was not overspent.
I understand, but I do feel like that needs council approval. You don't have the unilateral authority to actually do that. So that's why I'm concerned that that is going on, because it was going on before.
So let me ask a question. What you're asking for is the council has to approve every equipment purchase that takes place?
If we don't already have it in policy at certain amounts, yes, I do.
Your dump trailer was more expensive
No, I'm well
than,
aware.
okay, hold on just a second, than the dump truck.
Mhm.
And it came down to a matter of hours before a decision had to be made.
So you're not hearing me. I'm not concerned about the amount that was spent. I'm concerned about the possible infractions that could occur.
What if there's an
we can-
emergency, though,
Let me finish.
Kristen?
If the possible infractions that could occur.
So
Emergency is different.
you're basically making an accusation that I'm spending the town's money inappropriately.
I did not say that, but it
That's
has
what you're
happened in the
insinuating.
past.
And it is not happening now.
Okay, I don't care that you're defending yourself against something I have not said. What my concern is that it could occur if we allow that sort of process to continue. So I feel that that sort of thing should be coming in front of the council, because it shouldn't be decided amongst one person or three people when there's five of us.
Okay.
So I think the answer to your question is yes, that what you're saying is you want
At least at
the
this
council
point,
to approve any equipment purchase, no matter how small.
at least at this point.
Okay, wait a minute. Every place I've ever worked has had some kind of a capital piece
Absolutely.
at which if it's above
A
X,
certain amount.
then it has to go through everything. If it's
A
below,
grant of
it does
authority.
not.
Okay, so we do not have that.
We don't have a grants of authority.
So that's what I'm saying. At this point, that is not done
Yeah.
correctly. It's against state statute to actually just go and do that.
And-
So that's why I'm concerned that it was carried on the way it was. And then when asked about it, it just wasn't really elaborated on. So that has happened in the past 2.5 years that I've been here. And unfortunately, it's led to fraudulent things, thievery basically to occur. So I don't want it to continue. And so I'm requesting that we look into a better way than just spending $17,000 without anybody else except one person saying it's fine, because that's actually not in state statute for it to be done that way.
Well, I was in a panel with the state auditor at WAM last week, and we specifically talked about how you reconcile spending of budget line items, and if something is over or under, and how you handle that. And so I disagree with you when you are saying that's not how it's done.
So as far as reconciling, that's one thing. My concern, I mean, obviously that we have the money in there for making a purchase, but it's more that money is going to be spent on things that is not approved by this council, which is actually a state statute, that we do need to be approving that. So that's my concern.
If we're gonna do that, let's add in there that in the case of an emergency, right? If a major piece of equipment goes down or whatever that's critical,
That's in
right?
the
You
ordinance
have to
already.
have some language that says, we're not gonna wait. right? We've
And I
gotta get this
understand,
fixed.
but it
right?
also
But we
is-
don't have that in there either.
Well, and we don't have a
Those are
cap
ordinances.
either, so I'm well
Yes.
aware of that.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, it has just flippantly been, stuff has been paid for that hasn't been approved by a council, and so unfortunately, it
Yeah.
has
Okay.
been paid forth to things that we should never have bought as a community. And so it's concerning that we're still continuing with the same processes, and that allows us, even though we don't have our fraud assessment back yet, it still opens us up to fraud.
So right now, we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a grants of authority policy for the town that anybody knows about.
And
We-
quite
no,
honestly, I don't know
we
that we
do.
need one yet, because we still, as a town, I feel like should be recovering from the past fraud that we've already come like up
Okay.
against, and figuring out the best way to eliminate that. This is not the best way, to just continue spending money that people think they should be done. It should be the whole council deciding a vote done, and then that's why we do the budget. So I'm not concerned about the reconciling, so I'm assuming then the funds were taken from 2025? Is that where?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know, because I didn't see it, so I don't know. That, I mean, I think that's is all part of the concern. Like, I'm not saying that somebody is purposely gonna be doing that, but I was hoping 2.5 years ago, nobody was doing it either, and it was happening,
So we do have, in our ordinances, we have authorization for emergency use of reserve funds.
Okay, then,
Of reserve funds.
yeah. But emergency, you have to define emergency and all that stuff as
And
well.
I do
Yes.
understand when there's an auction and we have to get stuff done, I totally understand that. But I also feel like there's too big of a concern for the past, issues we've had to continue like that without being more transparent, especially to the rest of the council. Because it's not a flippant thing to spend $17,000.
I mean, can we just,
And we have a
can
capital
we
equipment
send
reserve,
a
which
text
is,
message
you
to
know,
like all of us that says, hey, jump on a call, or this is what's going on, give me the yes, and if it's a majority that say, yeah, go, I'm just looking for like
A way to
solutions
completely
to
do it.
these
Yeah.
That wouldn't be
issues.
possible because you have meeting laws that have to, you have to,
yeah.
you have to have a public
So-
meeting, so. Hey,
To vote.
I understand what you're saying, but as far as the fraud goes, I think I can comment on this there. I go spend all kinds of money. I can move money out of accounts and spend it. You would catch me though. And the problem in the past, and I can tell you because I went through all the files and receipts, is that no one did anything about it when it was there. I'm a retired police officer. You'll get caught. You'll see, if I go buy a truck today, you'll find out in about 30 days or 45. It's what you choose to do then that makes the difference. You can't stop someone from using a credit card to buy personal stuff.
I understand that, but
So I
that's why
don't-
I'm saying if we can actually do this in a smart way.
I'm just saying that this
Now?
wouldn't be a fraudulent issue, because you'll be caught, and everyone here's watching.
But people were caught before and we still lost a lot of money. So I
Today's a
think-
different day though. No one
And
here's
I
gonna allow
understand
that
that.
moving forward.
Still fraud.
Yeah, I'm like, there's.
You lose money,
Just because we get caught doesn't mean it's not fraud.
Yeah.
Where I have had to do budgets like this in the past, every year, for our fiscal year, before we pass the budget, we set up a cap and an authority level, allowing people at different levels of authority to spend money on, things within their purview. So like, Public Works being able to buy equipment with a specific authorization set for them, this is within their budget, so if they think they need a snow blower or a truck or a grader is probably more expensive than you guys wanna set a cap on, but as a way of an example, they set that up in the budget ahead of time, giving them the authority. But it's something the council would vote on. My board had to vote on it in order for me to authorize the different areas to spend that kind of money, but then you don't have this issue. You still have what our town administrator is talking about. If somebody misspends money, you catch them. It doesn't necessarily mean you get the money back, or the equipment back. You still are out that expense, and that happened to me a few times. But you're not, you guys are all fiduciaries, so you're the ones on the hook for it. But if you authorized that level of spending at certain areas.
And we did, in this
Then-
budget.
But you do it in the budget, so that even the public can see,
Yep.
okay,
It's all there.
this amount of money can be spent by these officials of the town.
Yep, and it's by project.
And what date was that done anyway? Because I thought you were out of town when it was approved.
There was one when I was out of town that didn't get purchased, and then when I got back, there was another one that came up and it did get purchased. So, and I'm gonna reiterate again, there was funding in the equipment needs account, there was funding in the capital reserve account. We did not buy all the things that were budgeted in 24-25 in that category. So there's nothing inappropriate that happened. I hear what you're saying about you would like to have known about it in advance.
Well, there is actually something that is wrong. You cannot make the decision by yourself. That's what I already said. Unilaterally, you have no authority that way.
Yeah, if,
And that's why we,
And
the
I
reason is to
disagree with you
protect
on that.
as well. You know, so that all of us are responsible for what one person is doing. No, it's all of us voting on it. And primarily the reason I want this is because
And what is it
I
exactly that you
appreciate
want?
that I want us
You-
to have some sort of like policy or something in place so that no one individually can go and just spend money however they think appropriate.
so we spend money in accordance with the budget. There was not a specific line item. There was one for dump trailer, not for dump truck. I don't believe we bought the
And we already bought the
building
dump
official SUV or the water pump motor that was in there for $16,000. So in the total equipment needs, again, not overspent, and I talked to the state
I'm aware
auditor
of
last
that.
week.
about
even-
this exact situation.
I did, yeah.
Oh, so you knew it would be a concern, because when you told me it wasn't.
No, we were talking about, he was talking about, but we were talking about end-of-year budget reconciliation. And someone else asked the question, what if you buy this instead of that in this particular category, and it wasn't specifically identified? And he said, that is not a problem. You don't adjust particular line items. It's when you overspend a category or an entire budget that you have a problem.
Well, it's a
So-
problem when you spend that isn't approved by everyone, because it
Right.
could be anything, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so the
Because-
idea is to, if it's outside of that, meaning like this dump trailer versus dump truck,
Well, the dump trailer was also bought.
okay.
But other things were not.
But again, if there's not a specific line item in the budget, it's an addendum, or it would be something outside of that.
It should
You
be
just want,
amended.
we want to have
And
more
that's-
visibility on
there's
it.
It should already be amended anyway, especially an expenditure that large. I mean, it's unlawful, I mean, this is state statute.
Now you're
for any
accusing me of making an
officer or
unlawful
employee.
expenditure.
I'm reading the Wyoming state statute,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So officer or employer or employee of a local government to make any expenditure or incur any obligation in excess of the total appropriation for any department or fund. And then it also says, any obligation incurred in violation of the act is void and may not be paid from public funds. I just feel that if we continue down this path, it just allows for more money to be spent, maybe where it should not be spent. And so that's why I'm saying, I don't think it's appropriate for one person to make a decision to spend that amount of money, especially because of the past issues we've had. And I do appreciate Trevor's here now, but I also know that employees come and go as well, and so I just wanna make sure that we're covered as an entity, so this doesn't happen to us again.
And going forward, we're doing our budget differently than we did previously. So
That's us.
closing out the current budget, which was not as well done as I believe our current one is, has been a bit difficult. There are a lot of budget categories that don't match up to what the budget was, to what was spent or not spent. And that is because there was also a transition from the clerk treasurer to the treasurer. So going forward, I don't think this is going to be a question or concern at all, because everything that's in our budget currently is what we're going
If
to
it's not in there,
spend
then
toward.
I think we should talk about it.
But if it's not spent, then you can spend it on whatever you want.
I can't,
I think
no,
that's
I
what
can't
I'm
spend it
saying.
on whatever I want.
But, I mean, if that
So-
has happened, so that's why I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
I
like,
gotcha.
if monies are spent, especially that amount, it should include everyone.
So we'll take a look and see if there's anything that needs to be done as far as amending the budget, which is something we're already looking at doing. And as we go forward to execute the new budget, if there are large expenditures that are not already in the budget, that the council is aware of, then those will be brought before the council to make any kind of a budget amendment that we need to make. So, any other topics, Councilman Merrill?
Not today.
Okay, all right, very good. And with that, I do believe that is all. So could I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Great, and a second, please.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Councilman Bitter and a second by Councilman Toolson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:35.